Hey all viewers and viewesses, my name is General Red Strategist. Welcome back to So You're Being Hunted. This is episode 262 now. So, remember in the last episode we made our way here to the North Island. We're approaching what could be the end of this challenge. We've only got the one device piece which you can see over there in the distance to actually collect. Now having said that, my inventory is currently a bit of a clusterfuck with all kinds of stuff going on in it. Things got a little bit hairy of course in the last episode. We had to kill off a couple of hunters and a dog so that we didn't end up failing the challenge. But problem is, it's that stage in the game now where all the different types of robots are all spawning and it's just getting very hairy and very dangerous. Now, obviously, we've got that one piece of the device down there to find. So part of me is thinking about maybe just freaking, I don't know, maybe going in there guns blazing, but then again, actually maybe not. In fact, I could use up my 2 bottles, in fact, and maybe then throw down the train if necessary. So hold on, let me just put my train in slot 5 for now. We'll put alarm clocks in slot 6 for the moment because we don't need the torch. Okay, right, so we've got lots of shotgun ammo, we've got a bit of rifle ammo left as well. Okay, so here's the thing, we're going to, because it's just this one last piece of the device for this challenge, we'll sort of pad this episode out a little bit, I think, because I've got interesting things that I want to talk about. So, obviously, last episode, I kind of jumped about a little bit in terms of topics, but one thing that I obviously was mentioning was kind of literature, which is a subject I've talked about before on So You're Being Hunted. So I was mentioning authors, like Jane Austen, Emily Bronte, Charles Dickens, Anthony Trollope, authors who, at some point in my life, I probably want to pick up and actually have a go at reading some of their works. And but an author that I am actually currently in the process of reading, I've got a big sort of really nice looking anthology of a lot of his stories, a lot of his poetry, is Edgar Allan Poe. So he's got some interesting stories, of course, like The Cask of Amontillado, The Fall of the House of Usher, things like that, The Murders in the Rue Morgue, and I've been reading through those so far. So Edgar Allan Poe, of course, is a classic of 19th century American literature, and he's got some interesting stuff because, of course, he's very sort of got that gothic feel. He goes for kind of supernatural elements, or he goes for sometimes not necessarily supernatural elements, but sometimes, the humans can be the worst sort of monsters, doing all kinds of horrible stuff, as in the case of, The Cask of Amontillado, and stories like that, where, of course, obviously if you read The Cask of Amontillado, you know what it's all about. It's about a guy who sort of seeks to punish somebody he doesn't like by basically luring them into the deepest part of a wine cellar of or a set of catacombs, whatever they were, and basically he chains the guy up to a wall, and then once he's basically got the guy immobilised in that fashion, he bricks up the entrance to the crypt, or to the catacomb, whatever it is, and essentially condemning the guy to a slow, quite psychologically horrifying death, essentially, trapped in darkness, deep underground. Essentially, it's kind of basically like being buried alive, but yeah. So, of course, the Cask of Amontillado is obviously one of Edgar Allan Poe's kind of, probably more well-known works, I would say. At first, before I started reading it, I actually was confused a bit, because I thought the Cask of Amontillado was about a guy who murdered another guy by knocking him unconscious and sealing him in a cask of wine, basically so that he drowns in it. But actually, having said that, no, it's that might actually have been a real historical event. I'm not sure. Other guys, you people watching out there, surely you must have heard that story before, right? About, who was it? I can't even remember. There's like I don't know if it's a true story or not, but there is a story about some guy who was sealed in a cask of wine, something like that. That's how he was murdered. They put him in, nailed the lid down so that he couldn't get out, and so he drowns in the barrel of wine. I don't know. I've heard the story before, but I can't remember the exact details of it. So, if anyone out there watching this video, if you know the details of that story, then please let me know in the comments below. I'll probably Google search it in a little bit once I've done my recording session for today, see if I can find it, because I could have sworn it was a true story. Some aristocrat or whoever who was assassinated or something. I don't know, but. Yeah, I don't know the details, and for all I know, it could just be an urban myth, kind of urban legend sort of thing. that's the thing, there are a lot of historical kind of anecdotes and stories which people sort of accept to be true, but actually, when you look at the evidence, the actual historical evidence that exists, you realise that the truth is there's no real accuracy to them, or they're inaccurate, whatever. But yeah. So yeah, getting back to the matter at hand, Edgar Allan Poe is obviously proving to be a very interesting author at the moment. Obviously, because he was writing in the 19th century, his style of prose is kind of very typical of that era. So, if you that kind of writing is not for everybody, let's put it that way, because of course it really requires you to sort of unpack the language a bit. But at the end of the day, it's not that it's difficult to follow. You just need to think sometimes think carefully about what it is you're actually reading. But that is the case with a lot of old writers, especially when you're going back before the turn of the century. So yeah. But yes, I'm steadily working my way through all of Edgar Allan Poe's stories, at least the ones contained in that anthology. The thing is, I'm not even halfway through the book yet. I think the bulk of the anthology is actually taken up by his poetry. So, I'm wondering if poems like The Raven and things like that will be in there. I sure hope so. Man. Of course, I hadn't really kind of encountered Edgar Allan Poe much before, prior to picking up this anthology that I got. I mean, I've had this book for a while. It's just I started reading it for a bit, but then I think I got distracted by another book, and that's something which I can be a bit of a beggar for sometimes. I start reading one thing, and then just as I've got into it, I buy another book, and I think, I'll just put this one that I got first. I'll just put that on hold for the moment, and then I'll just read this other one that I've bought. But then I end up getting distracted and kind of forget about the original one, and then I don't come back to it for a while. But now that was the case with my Edgar Allan Poe anthology. I started reading it for a bit, then got distracted by some other rather interesting literature, and now I've come back to it to actually try and finish it off. Okay, I think the jetties are just over here, in fact. So yes, let me know in the comments if anyone out there watching this, if you've read any Edgar Allan Poe. How did you find it? Did you enjoy it? Or did you find it a bit hard to read? Whatever you want to say. Yes. Okay. So, I get the feeling that this is probably going to be a fairly short episode. This is why I'm actually just normally walking rather than sprinting. So it actually takes me time to get to where I want to be. Yes. Man. Quite well. Also, actually, incidentally, if you guys actually out there watching know of any other good sort of Victorian Gothic kind of horror, spooky fiction writers, feel free to talk about them in the comments below as well. Because again, I was saying this actually in the previous episode, but sometimes, you can come across good authors and things like that just by word of mouth, just by having a little bit of conversation with other people. Sip of tea whilst I'm at it. Because, that sort of thing is very, very, kind of a very good way of just picking up on interesting authors, especially sometimes more kind of obscure authors as well, authors who you might not previously have thought about, because I'm sure there are tons of writers out there whose works are perhaps not as well known as the likes of Edgar Allan Poe, but who do write some pretty interesting stories. So yeah, if you have any interesting authors, they don't necessarily have to be kind of up-to-date authors, they can be historical ones as well, if you kind of want to point them out too. But if you know of any, feel free to let me know in the comments below. It'll be very, very interesting. Okay, obviously, the 19th century was quite a big period for Gothic horror. I mean, I mentioned obviously Edgar Allan Poe, but you could refer to Bram Stoker with Dracula, Mary Shelley with Frankenstein, all these kind of stories. Some real good stuff. There's some real good stuff out there. Okay, there's the Standing Stones over there. I'm just looking at my clock right now. This episode hasn't even been 10 minutes yet. Maybe I should have just added this on to the end of the last episode instead. I don't know. Well, you know what. I'll stand around at the Standing Stones for a bit and could just keep chatting, gassing away, shooting the crap. But then again, there is actually a rider not too far away from where I am right now. Just put that in there, save progress. Okay, having said that, the rider actually sounds like he's retreating, which is pretty good. So yes, obviously, like I say, comments below. You want to leave recommendations for authors, things like that, please do so. I welcome them. You never know. The only thing of it is, you know, where I live at the moment, down south of England, there isn't kind of any sort of good bookshops in immediate sort of walking or driving distance. If I wanted to go to a bookshop, I'd probably have to go into the centre of town. That's the problem. Back when I used to live up north, there were plenty of bookshops and I knew where they were. So I could always just, you know, go and visit them. Not just, you know, big sort of established chains like Waterstones, but also a lot of independent ones and charity bookshops, things like that. You know, you go kind of hunting around in those, you'll find some really interesting stuff. But down here where I am now, I don't really kind of know where the bookshops are, even though I've actually been living here now for about a year, which is kind of embarrassing. Truth is, you know, the town I'm living in, I've not actually even really been into the centre of it because it's a bit of a fucking labyrinth of roundabouts, things like that. And I just don't want to go driving in there. I don't know, and I've heard people say it's a bit of a dump. There's not really much there. But yeah, maybe I'll have to go in someday and explore. Okay, we'll tell you what. I think we've been recording for about 10 minutes. It'll do.
Sir, you've done it. I'm bringing the device up to speed now. I hope you won't consider this impertinent, sir, but I'm amazed you survived. Hang on. We'll have you out of there in 3, 2, 1.
Well, there we go. Spy challenge complete, everybody. Unlike the previous challenge, I actually beat it. Well, there we go. Sorry, Professor Elemental, but we're not going to listen to you. Deary me. Oh, well, there we go. Let's see how my stats were. Starting profession, of course, I was the officer. Time alive, 2 hours, 12 minutes and 25 seconds in total. 10 robots who I had to kill there, so that they didn't expose me below my cover. Only 1 bandage used, 24 items of food eaten, 18 shots fired. Traps sprung. It says 0, so I'm guessing that means traps that I've set, not traps that I got caught in. Because otherwise, if it was traps that I got caught in, it would say 1. Animals cooked, didn't do any of those. Only 1 flask of tea drunk. And of course, no deaths. Stealth rating, lower upper class. Is that good, or is that bad? I don't know. Or is it somewhere in the middle? Who knows, ladies and gentlemen? I still don't really know the rating system for this game, how it works. Well, there you go. So, tell you what, let's wrap up here then. So, thank you for joining me then, everybody, for this, the 262nd episode of Sir, You're Being Hunted. In the next episode, I might just actually just do a generic sort of chat style episode for the next one, you know, podcasty style episode, because there's a few things, you know, we can have a nice little conversation about, and then probably after that I might get on to another challenge, so I hope you'll join me for that then. If you're not doing so already, you can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever, you know, social media page, either of those you want to. Links are, of course, are down below. I'm kind of fluffing my outro a bit here, I don't know why. If you're also interested in seeing me do anime-related content, go check out my General Propagandist channel, link also down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget, do leave a like, do comment, subscribe to my channel, and share this content with your friends on whatever social media pages you may be signed up to. But in the meantime, thank you everybody, and goodbye. Wow. So we essentially have nearly every type of weapon already. So we have to deal with this bloody Panzer Trooper. Oh god, careful, he does it. Oh, he's dead, that's good. There's another guy. Is he coming? Yeah, he is, I think. Or is he? Or is he going to mess around? He's going to fucking mess around, isn't he? Like the little bitch. Oh no, here he comes. There we go, he's down. Oh no! Save. There we go. Oh, what the? Oh shit. This better not be a... Wah! Shit! No! Oh my fucking god! How many... What? Holy shit!